From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning, everybody, and we're going to have another very detailed Weather Weeklies video segment here, and we're going to be talking a little more in depth here this time with a long-range pattern, and I'm just constantly fielding questions about and the Debbie Downers with well, winter's over, winter never started this year, and just stick a fork in it, just bring on spring. This winter was hyped by the media and blah blah blah. In some respects, that's true. I think that there were some outlooks out there that came out in August and September, and we just put them on blast on the Facebook page. Especially, you can't put out a winter outlook in August and expect it's going to verify. So I hope whoever put those outlooks out in August and September learned a valuable lesson this year, that you can't just go look at what happened last year and expect that's going to be the norm for this year, because that's if you're talking about last year being like the third highest snowfall all time in recorded history for some places, and to sit here and say, well, it's going to be as bad or worse. Come on, you're already setting yourself up for failure. You're not giving yourself much wiggle room there. You're really just setting yourself up for failure already. Now, we waited till November, and we expected December to be warm. We expected December to be a mild month, and then at some point in December, flip to this colder and snowier pattern. Well, that waited until the 29th to get into the colder pattern. I know we had this storm on Sunday. Of course, we were cold for a couple days. Then, of course, as soon as a storm comes, it warms up, and that's because of the way the track this storm took for this weekend storm here. But it's only going to be a one-day shot of warmth while the storm is going on, and we're getting rain, and then it's going to go head back down again. For the most part, the pattern has changed. We just had an unfortunate, break in the action there with that storm cutting to the west instead of heading east of us, which would have given us a snowstorm. Let's get into the pattern here. I want to get into our long range, and this was done a couple days ago, actually done on New Year's Eve, and showed the below average temperatures for the 1st to the 3rd. That was correct. Here is our storm here, wintry mixed rain. That, of course, happened. And also above average temperatures for one day while the storm was here. That, of course, happened. Now we're going to get back into the colder temperatures behind this system, and it's going to get actually brutally cold here for a couple days at the end of the week. And here is where we have another clipper system that's going to come in here. It's going to be a high ratio snow event. Originally looked like it was going to be about a 20-to-1 ratio for that storm. I think with the timing coming in during peak heating of the day, which really isn't going to be warm, but temperatures aren't going to be stuck in the teens and lower 20s. I think you're more like 25 to 30, so that changes your ratios a little bit. But still will be above 10-to-1, which is the normal snowfall to rain ratio. So in other words, if I say we're going to have, we have a tenth, I'll say 2/10 of an inch of liquid equivalent. That's if you took all the snow and melted it down, you'd have 2/10 of an inch of liquid equivalent. Well, normally on a 10-to-1 scale, 10-to-1 ratio, that'll give you 2 inches of snow. If it's 20-to-1, though, because the ratios, the fluff factor is higher, you get a drier, powdery snow because of the lower temperatures, both here all the way up to about 700 millibar, which is about 10,000 feet, or just under 10,000 feet. So anywhere up between here and about 10,000 feet, the temperatures to be very cold, you get a higher ratio of snow, very fluffy snow, very dry snow, very powdery snow, and that piles up faster. So your ratios could, if they're 20-to-1 on 2/10 of an inch of liquid equivalent, you're talking about 4 inches of snow. It doubles. I don't think we're getting quite to 20-to-1. We're probably talking more like 15, but that's still 1.5-to-1. So 150% of what the normal 10-to-1 ratio is. So if you get a tenth of an inch, you can get an inch and a half instead of an inch, in other words. If that makes any sense. So we're going to look at this clipper system Tuesday. Doesn't look like a big deal in the model guidance right now, but that's because it's not accounting for the ratios. But even so, you're still talking about a widespread 1 to 3 out of this. Here is the temperature period. We're going to definitely below average here from the 5th to the 10th, and we're going to be well below actually as we get into Wednesday, Thursday of this week. And then when we moderate, it only goes back to near normal temperatures for this time. You're actually a little slightly below. So you're really not. That's what we're showing here. 11 to 16. It's showing a moderation period on the models, but it's moderating back to what normal is. We're going to be well below normal on Wednesday and Thursday. So when it moderates, it goes back to 32, 34 for a high temperature, and that's it. So we're not talking about some warm up here. And then temperatures we think are going to go below average. We're siding with a below average here in the long range. I know this is a very volatile period. Models are all over the place. Now we have low confidence in this right now because it's still far out. We're also looking at a big storm threat, next big storm threat to come the 14th to 16th time frame. We have a couple shots of some minor things in the meantime. So a few things in the interim that are going to be just give you a couple inches here and there maybe. And that would be we're going to outline those periods of Tuesday this week, Friday this week, and Sunday of this week. Those are all small little clippers, cold fronts, whatever you want to call it. Reinforcing shots already here that come down and they bring a little bit of some light snow or flurries or nothing much, but it might be in some places. It might give you some accumulations that just add up a little bit. Let's get into the Madden-Julian oscillation here. So we talked about this in the last video segment we did last week. And this is done every week, updated every week from NOAA. They do there's a Climate Prediction Center. One of the things we're noticing here, now this is going to sound great to a lot of people. I don't expect you to follow this. The MJO normally is a pattern within a pattern. So within a season, an intra-season pattern. It's a 30 to 60 day cycle of weather. And people keep telling me, well, the MJO is in unfavorable phases right now. I really don't think the MJO has a factor on our forecast right now, and I'll show you why. Here's what's going on right now. You have the western anomalies here. This is basically what the MJO is basically. Here's the equator. This is convection, a measure of convection along the equator. Okay, and where it is along that equator will determine. Here's of course North America. Here's South America, and where that convection is firing. In relation to the international date line, which is right here, the 180-degree line, okay? And then there's your equator right here. Wherever that convection is lining up, and where it is along this, along the equator here, the further east is it needs to be further east for us to benefit here and have the MJO have an effect on our weather here. So what that does, if you have convection near the date line, it actually increases the chances you're going to have a ridge in the western half of the United States and a trough in the east. Of course, if you have a ridge out there, it's warm out by California, Seattle, Idaho, all those places. Here in the east, we have a trough, which means it's cold over the northeast United States. That's what the idea is with the MJO is. So if you hear people talking about them on the Facebook page, asking me questions, asking our staff questions, that's what they're talking about. It's just a measure of the convection along the equator and what position along the equator it is. Further east, closer to the date line or east of it, will promote a ridge in the west. And we'll go into the phases now so you can understand what we're talking about here. Here are the phases. There's phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, our favorable phases that you want for the east coast of the United States are 1, 7, and 8. Okay, these are your coldest phases. And right now we're over here. Okay, so that's not helping you. This is the convection is centered over the maritime continent, which means it's in phase 5. We're currently in phase 5, but it is projected. Here's the projection right now. I'm moving the wrong thing here. Here's the projection right now. The projection is to take this into phase 6. Still not a very favorable scenario there with phase 6, and then eventually phase 7. After here, who the heck knows? Okay. It could go into phase 7, it could go into phase 8, it could crash into the circle of death, which is this circle in the middle, which means it has absolutely no effect. But we really think it doesn't have that much of an effect at all anyway. And I'll show you that in a second here too. Let's go into the phases significance. If it's in phase 5 like it is now, you see it's promoting that this area will be under a lot of warmth. This is temperatures above normal departures for this time of year. Okay. So it's promoting a phase 5 look to it, a strong southeast ridge. Same thing in phase 6, even though it's going from phase 5 to phase 6 and eventually phase 7. Phase 6, same thing. Very warm here. Okay? But once you get into phase 7, which is up here, you're talking about the blues here showing below normal temperatures. Okay? Now right now, this is a little confusing. This is where I have an issue with the MJO and why I don't think it really has an issue. It's not having an effect on our weather, because we're not having this. We're in phase 5. We don't have this right now. We don't have this warmth. Maybe today, but we don't have this as an overall pattern. From the 29th onward, we've been colder. All right, and we're going to be staying colder this week. So even though we're going to be in phase 5, we're not going to look like this. We're going to look more like this. Actually, over this one, we're going to look more like this. Very cold, like more of a phase 7 look. Now, why is that? All right, and why I think the MJO has had no effect thus far, I think is because of the same reasons we can look to like what we had last year. Here's the SST anomalies. These are all your warm temperatures along the western half of the country here, or these are sea surface temperatures just off the western U.S. coastline, going all the way up, and I could actually extend this, but I didn't. All the way up into the Gulf of Alaska, it's also equally warm up here. Well, that gives you, what is that? That's a negative PDO. Okay, negative Pacific Decadal Oscillation. What that does is allows for some ridging out west, and this can be overcome. This is how we were able to overcome a bad setup. Well, not the best setup last year. We had the 3rd highest record snowfall in some areas last year on a winter where we weren't supposed to get even to average snowfall. And that's because there's the EPO and PDO were driving the pattern last year, and the PDO is still saying, wow, this is some really warm temperatures out here, so we can't, the MJO, which is down here, yeah, the convective, it doesn't matter, because you're actually overcoming that with this warmth sitting out here. So these warm sea surface temperatures are playing a part in keeping it cold in the east. It's allowing for the polar vortex, which I'll show you in a second, to flex its muscle a little bit, and the MJO is really not having as much of an effect. Now today it is. That's the southeast ridge. It is giving you a little bit of kickback, and you'll have that from time to time because we have no sustained. The MJO is not in favorable phases right now, and it's not even having an effect on the pattern. So when it does, it isn't a favorable phase. We might have a much different look to this thing here. Now, one of the things we're worried about is the Pacific jet here. The Pacific jet is very fast, and we've seen that very fast Pacific jet. I'm going to outline a few features here. First of all, here's your Pacific jet. Woo, screaming across the country. Now we're getting that's a very fast zonal winds. This is now I think like the 6th consecutive month or something like that. It's ridiculous how fast the zonal winds have been. I think it might be close to a record. I'm not sure somebody keeps records of that kind of thing, but I don't have time to look at it. But I know it's got to be nearing record territory of these zonal winds being so fast. What that does by this being so fast, it cuts the country in half. You get really warm down here, and all your cold air stays up here. Okay, you need, in order to get there's plenty of cold air in Canada. There's plenty of snow in Canada. Okay, in order to get that down here, you need an amplification, which is this. Remember those bar graphs or those what are those called? Wavelength charts in high school when you're doing trigonometry and things like that, and you have these big ridges, you have these deep troughs. Well, same idea here. In order to get this cold to bleed down here, you're going to need a trough to bring it down. Well, if your flow is like this, west to east, oops, oh Lord, I'm all over the place today. If your flow, move this back. If your flow is sitting here like west to east, where's your amplification? You don't have any. You have some over Canada here, but we need to slow this down. Okay, and since the latest December totals don't really show this slowing down that much. So we have to rely on other things. Here's your polar vortex. I'm going to write a PV up here. Polar vortex is it's situated, ideally you'd want it over Hudson Bay, but instead it's sitting up here, Baffin Bay, and up by Greenland. Okay, not a bad situation here, because now by the polar vortex being in this position, you're forcing everything to go around it. And that's what you're seeing right here. This is right now. Actually, this is a look at this upcoming week. So you're getting the cold air because a piece of this polar vortex is cutting as far south into our area now because of the positioning strength of it. Okay, so everything's forced to go around it. All right, and that's what you're seeing. Now, if that polar vortex is there, you'll get a bunch of northern stream systems, and that's it. You're not going to get a lot of these. You're not going to get these big, if you don't have the amplification, you're not going to get these big giant storms that are coming up the coast and you just clock us here with a heavy snowstorm. You're going to get a bunch of clipper systems that are rotating around this polar vortex, and that's what we're going to have this week. Tuesday, Friday, maybe Sunday. Tuesday's definite. Friday and Sunday, we'll see. Okay, so you're going to have these things rotating around this little impulses rotating around the polar vortex. So even though Pacific Jet is fast, you can still get snow. Not a lot, but you still get snow rotating around the polar vortex. Let's go out here, and this is going out quite a bit now. This is 192 hours in the future. So now we're looking at the 12th of January. Now a little bit different of a look here. Polar vortex is still up here, but a lot weaker, a little displaced, a lot weaker. Okay, so you don't have the stuff rotating around, it's all up here. But now what you're starting to see is a ridge out here in the west. Remember I said that if you have a ridge, you can have a trough in the east. Now you're seeing some amplification. So when you have these energy pieces that are from the northern stream diving down in here, now you can get the southern jet going. Southern jet's right here. And if you get two of these meeting up with each other, you can have a storm along the east coast. A little bit more favorable setup coming, at least in the longer range. And this is the 12th of January. So now this isn't ideal right now. Looking at the 12th, so I wouldn't expect any storms to be here on the 12th. But this continues to the ridge continues to flex its muscle out here. Okay, and you get this trough in the east here. You could get into more active pattern once we get to the middle of the month, and I think you have a good shot at that. But we'll have to see how that works out. One of the things that can help that too is if you have the stratosphere helping out, and right now you have some nice warming going on right over the polar regions here. So if you can get that warming to translate to this polar vortex, it's actually going to force it to split into two pieces, and then that might set up some blocking for us. So that's something we're going to be looking for. We should know by the middle of the month whether we're going to have blocking and whether the stratospheric warming event that's currently going on works out or not. The European model of long range thinks no, but we'll see. Still got a bunch of time. Gonna get into this system here on the real quick here for the snow this week. This is a model projected snowfall for this week, including ratios, and I really don't think there's a lot of snow here, but most of the energy is going to come up here and look like it's going to come at us like, oh wow, this might overperform. Well, it's going to hit the Appalachian Mountains and it's going to be ripped apart a little bit. Not completely, so we're still going to get some snow here, which are only 1 to 3 inch type snowfalls. Maybe a little more, which you head to the northwest part of a coverage area here, but very generally a 1 to 3 inch snowfall. And looking at reason, this is what it's going to look like Monday night. So you got this big heavy batch of precipitation here coming with it, area low pressure right here. As this moves in, it's going to hit this wall of the mountains here, and then it's going to die out a little bit once it gets over here. So you're still going to get snow here, again, 1 to 3, but the mountains like to eat these things up a lot of times with the clippers, unless they take a perfect track and they head a little bit further south, and they dig, the northern stream digs a little bit more and even redevelops, but that's not happening this time. So just lighter snows, but it's better than what we've been getting here. Down things for sure, we're going to be ridiculously cold this week, and that's going to be in the Wednesday-Thursday time frame, especially Wednesday night. These are low temperatures. All of these temperatures that are shown here, these are all single-digit lows here, and these are where you're seeing the grays. These are hitting 0. Okay, so you have some isolated spots that are going to hit 0 on early Thursday morning, and then highs are really going to be in the teens to near 20 over the majority of the coverage area here on Thursday. So definitely feel ridiculously cold. And then here's what I was talking about with those northern stream systems. Again, with that PV sitting up to the north, and it's going to be sitting up here, way up here. You still get an active, you get that storm track around it here. This is the high-res GFS parallel, and this is showing the idea here that you get everything just kind of rotating around here, but you can still get these snows over in our area here adding up little by little. Not a lot, but you get a couple of those like Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. You can pick up to a couple inches of snow, and it's certainly not going to be melting or going anywhere. It's going to be very cold this week. So, here's a look at that one on Sunday here. Again, this is from the European model system right here, very weak, and but still throwing enough snow back here that you're getting some snow out of it. All right, and not much. All right, but there are those chances. Here's that we were talking about the bigger mid-month threats. Here's a look at the GFS trying to pull something up the coast here. When we have more favorable teleconnections, it's going to depend on that ridge that we showed in those previous images, but we like this time frame in the 14th through the 16th for a potential storm. Of course, if you want to follow along with My Pocket Meteorologist, we have our winter season only options available, and those have been reduced for the monthly, what we had originally in November. They have been at a reduced price now, so you can sign up for those and stay ahead of any storm and get exact amounts and impacts and timing for your location sent directly to your cell phone or email through our My Pocket Meteorologist program. Click on the image that looks just like this below this video, and you can get in there and sign up. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is your this version of Weather Weeklies, couldn't spit that out. This version of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 4th. Please join us again next week for another version of Weather Weeklies. Have a great weekend.